This is my thesis defense. I'm Sahasra Dranavali. I'm a junior at Mountain House High School. My research paper is called The Impacts of Cancer Diagnoses and Treatments on the Psychological Health of Patients. My introduction. So first off, about why I decided to focus on the psychological impact of cancer in variation to like the immune and other systems. I've been interested in psychology and its field for a while now, and that's what I plan to do in college too. But more specifically, I wanted to investigate how psychology and the psychological impacts of cancer influence the progression and the stigma surrounding it. A couple of my research questions that I wanted to answer throughout this research paper was how does psychology decline further negate against cancer recovery? Another question was, does stigma play a role in the progression of cancer? And is there any way to reverse the stigma or alleviate the negative effects? My objective was to explore the psychological side of cancer diagnoses and treatments, as it's often stigmatized and may contribute to the negative progression of cancer. My literature review. So some current relevant current literature that is being done related to my topic are some studies conducted internationally and nationally that study the psychological health of cancer patients based on this factor called the quality of life. Basically, in these studies listed below, such as the one done on Ghanaian women about breast cancer diagnosis, ask about the patient's various aspects of life. And based on that, the quality of life factor and its range can help diagnose or indicate, not necessarily diagnose, any psychological condition like anxiety or depression. And these results have come back to conclude that many cancer survivors and patients have elevated psychological conditions like anxiety, depression, and that mainly results from isolation. Some areas of weakness related to this topic, however, are that the stigma surrounding it and the treatments to alleviate stress are not explored as much as the psychological impact because the scientific community knows that there are a lot of mental health issues that cancer patients go through, but the stigma surrounding it isn't related to in the scientific impact, as a lot of psychological impact can contribute to the growth of tumors. That's just the overall topic, but it can relate to the growth of tumors on the microscopic level based on the immune system and some immune cells. My methodology. So I examined numerous primary studies to collect data of psychological condition diagnoses and come to conclusions regarding the overall psychological health or the takeaways from that research paper. In order to assess this data, I examined various ranges of studies to come to some overall conclusions. The results. Through the results of this literature review, I've come to the conclusion that psychological health deterioration from cancer diagnoses and treatments can aid in the progression of cancer. Therefore, strategies to alleviate this stress, such as group therapy and follow-up medical care, is required. Because although we know that mental health is very common, mental health issues are very common in the cancer field, there aren't many strategies to help alleviate that. Many doctors recommend exercise, but what's also really important is follow-up medical care that would need to be worked out with their medical professional, because follow-up medical care can assert their safety throughout, because cancer can return at any time and deteriorating psychological health can increase the risks for that. Some significant findings that I found throughout this literature review experience was that there are various socioeconomic factors that can also contribute to the development of cancer, such as isolation and the lack of financial independence to pay through the treatment, and stigma as well. Strategies to alleviate the stress are very necessary for cancer patients, and is what I personally think, and included in my recommendations, is that should be explored a little more in this field. This is an example of my diagram in terms of treatments in cancer as of right now. My conclusion: to address the research question, why cancer patients and survivors experience the everlasting psychological torment they do, I analyzed primary research studies to come to an overall conclusion about the root of this question. I analyzed over 18 sources, primary and informational, in order to come to valid conclusions regarding the psychological impact of cancer on patients in terms of both the causes and effects of cancer, as well as the stigma surrounding it. I also made a diagram using BioRender which was the example I have showed before. Some limitations may be that I have not conducted a study. However, a literature review really helped me understand on the secondary level and successfully answer my research question, because I was able to explore scientific concepts that I couldn't have explored before, such as how immune cells and the HPA axis and psychological torment during cancer therapy can relate to the progression of cancer itself, and how socioeconomic factors can be both the effect and the cause of cancer progression. So talking about my research experience with gifted Gabber, I would say it was really helpful because although I am taking a few STEM classes right now, there are often mistakes that people make on the vague level, and I made some mistakes too based on like the scientific concepts, and Professor Pralat was really helpful in correcting those mistakes and any misconceptions that I had in this particular topic. I also worked closely with Professor Virgil to expand my research paper and include a bunch of diagrams that really helped me make my research paper appealing to the general public. And it was a really great experience for me. I think that the secondary literature review really helped me contribute to the field of psychology on a base that I didn't think a high schooler could do. And yeah, thank you. That was my presentation.
Thank you, Sahasra. That was really, really good. Your topic and the way you approach the whole thing has been amazing. So thank you. 2 questions for Sahasra.